Welcome back to another episode of the BMW E28 overhaul. Today we are on the home stretch trying to get a bunch of stuff done. We are getting close to finishing the E28, so we just have some bodywork to put back on. But before we do that, I wanted to get down to installing the short shifter. I've been antsy to see how this thing works, so that is going to be our first task. And this is from UUC. It's their Evo 3 adjustable short shifter, and it's pretty much one of the best ones on the market, especially for an E28. They also make them for E36, E46. Go check out their website. They're one of the best brands out there. So the first item up here is to take the shift knob off, and I have read online that these things are terrible to pull off. People literally have to like get down in between this area and just like yank it up. Thankfully, I think I've had this one off already, so I know I have. So it should come off pretty easily.
So it doesn't screw on?
No, it's like a weird, it's like a weird slip-on style.
Fit, okay.
Yeah. So there, now it's off, thankfully. And you gotta take the leather boot off. Here we are. I've actually already disconnected the shifter rod below. I think we're gonna have to still go back down there to take some other items off, but the next order is just to take all of the rubber out of here, and once that's out, we can focus on replacing it. Oh boy, this one's it's all cracked here too. That's not good. Well, that escalated very quickly from removing a rubber boot, which we didn't do. I decided we just pull everything down through the bottom, and that required dropping the exhaust system, loosening the subframe or the rear transmission mount to drop that a little bit to finally get at this to remove it. But it is done, and really that is the right way to do it. There's also a pin that's very finicky, so there's really no way to do that without actually dropping the transmission a little bit.
I've been using these wipes to clean everything around the shop, and apparently Pete's getting on the bandwagon here.
I don't want to work on the shifter when it is this greasy.
It is a greasy mess.
It's just like, look at it. Oh, it's so coated.
This is the undercoating life.
This is the undercoating life. But you know, the flip side of it is, even though it is nasty and awful to work with, all of the bolts have come out. I have not snapped a nut or bolt. I have not really had too much headache removing any of them. So there is an upside to the undercoat, despite it just covering your entire body and making you curse a lot. Check out the instructions that UUC provides, like super thorough. That was the pin I was talking about that's really difficult to get to. So we're really not going to screw this up at all. I just got to
last words, buddy.
No, I just got to follow the instructions here. So I think the next thing here is to take this out.
All right.
I think there it is.
Oh, look at that.
All right. So out with the old and in with the new here. All right, well, the install part is actually the easy job. Taking this out of the car, I think, was the most difficult. So let's get this back together and see how much better the shifter actually is. Oh, and I should mention, this is also adjustable, height adjustable. So if I want the shifter to be taller, you can make it taller. There we have it. It was still a bit of a bitch to get all those little pins and bushings and all that back in, but I think the result is well worth it. Oh my goodness. It is so much tighter, so much better. Well, DP, I think this is almost too nice.
It is
of a
too
paint
nice
job.
It is.
To put on the beater.
Yep.
Luke did such a fantastic job. Like, check out that hood.
Yep.
It's definitely not gonna match the fenders. He actually told me to go and wash this hood and this front lip a bunch of times at one of the car washes, so all that like grit and sand scuffs this up to make it look at least a little bit closer to what the fenders look like. But I think I'm just gonna leave it, rock it as is, maybe have the fenders repainted down the road, but we're just gonna roll with it. The paint job.
It's too good,
good.
TT. It's too good.
It is too good.
You've got super shiny and new, kind of faded and dull and old.
It's time to bolt the bumper back on. We've got our new bracket acquired. We're only gonna replace the left side since that one was damaged. We're leaving the other one on there. I bent a little bit of that metal here that you had bent in with the accident, so I think we're okay. Yeah, it looks like our line looks good here. So I'd say let's get this thing bolted up and see what happens. And here is our final piece on the front end. My replica Alpina front lip. So DP, just gonna tighten the screws up on the sides, but
That is looking good.
I think my car is back together again.
It's exciting.
It's like an accident never happened.
Yeah.
Aside from
How
all
good
that nice, clean, fresh paint.
Yeah,
But hey, it looks good.
it does look good.
I'm just gonna roll with it. So what do you think? It's not that bad a job. I couldn't really find anybody local that was willing to put the time in or guarantee me to kind of bang this out. Everybody said it's too much work, you're gonna need to get it re-chromed. So I just said, well, I'll do it myself. And as you saw, the job came out not that bad. It is way, way better than it was before. But before I go bolting this bumper on and finishing off the rear end, there is a lot left to do. And mainly that is with the bottom here. As you can see, it does not look good. There is like a rubber rhino coating of sorts on here that I put on before, and as you can see, it's flaked off and started to rust in places. So I'm just gonna quickly clean this up and repaint it so it looks, I don't want to say as good as new, but close to that, because this is kind of the real eyesore on this car. Just a little bit of quick prep work, and that is because I'm using some aircraft paint stripper on the bottom of the bumper here. Figured that was the way to go since this is the most aggressive, and we'll take this whole coating off very quickly. Looks like the stripper did an okay job. There was just too much of that rubberized guard on there, so it created actually a bit of a mess that I'm gonna have to clean up. But now we're on to the next step. Well, that escalated quickly. As you can see, I ended up stripping this down to bare metal. I'm leaving this portion up here painted just because that's where the bumper is and I don't really want to mess with that paint. If you're wondering, there is a bunch of Bondo in certain spots, and that's because when you do the Euro conversion, there's holes here for the US bumpers that you need to cover up. And as you can see, I did my best attempt at Bondoing those. So now it's on to some more Bondo work actually, and then it should be ready for paint. I think that is it for the Bondo, the sanding. I'll be the first to admit I am terrible at that, but on the bright side, I don't need this to be perfect because I'm gonna be using some rocker guard, which is gonna mask a lot of the imperfections. Nevertheless, it is time to paint this thing, and A, I don't wanna paint it outside, and B, I want to do a somewhat decent job on it, so I'm going to build a paint booth using this hoist. And bam, we've got ourselves a paint booth, and I use that term very lightly. Really, the whole point of this is so I don't get overspray into the shop. That's always a huge problem when you're painting a large area like this. So let me give you a tour of this wonderful setup. As you can see, it is closed off everywhere, so it should be good. I think the only issue is it might be a little bit tight for painting in there, but I will figure it out. So now on to what I'm going to be painting with. We're going to be starting off with some Proform self-etching primer as the first coat, just to make sure that our European textured rubberized rocker guard is going to stick well. That's the problem I had last time. I spray painted that like rubberized guard and it peeled off. So this time I'm going to use primer as I didn't before. So this stuff is supposed to be really good, and it's supposed to give you that kind of textured look as you see on the bottom of a lot of vehicles. And finally, this is Paint Match. I think it's called Serious Metallic Blue for this car. So I had this whipped up at my local paint shop. And acetone to wipe everything down before we get started. That's it, the final coat of paint is on. So we will see tomorrow when this dries how it all looks. I've gotta say though, that is a ton of work. I now get why the body guys charge so much money, because if someone was really looking to do this with some more attention to detail, it would be a much longer job, and it's already been a full day for me. Here we are, it is the next day. The paint has had overnight to dry, so now it is time to see what all that fuss was about. First things first, I think we've got a good match on the paint. It certainly doesn't look like it's an off shade or whatever, so that is a start. And well, the texture is there. It definitely is there. There's a couple spots. Geez, I didn't notice this dent when I had cleared everything off. It is way more apparent now, but such is life. The other things, I mean, I was hoping that my bad Bondo wouldn't show through. There's one spot here that obviously missed a blend, which is not great. You can kind of see this area has always been like this. This is where the patch job was done for the Euro conversion. The line that runs through here is not as apparent. Again, that is my bad, but I'll state one more time, I am definitely not a professional at this, and sadly I lack the patience or the time with all the other projects that we have going on to try to perfect something. But the flip side is, once the bumper is on, you rarely see much below this area here. So I think for what I was trying to achieve, this is definitely a win. And also remember, if you're doing this at home, an easy up is pretty much like a hoist, so you can kind of like set your own little paint booth up. The one thing I would recommend is maybe getting a fan to kind of pull the air out, and obviously doing it outside also helps. And here it is with the Euro bumper installed, and check out the dent. It is pretty much gone, aside from this little scratch slash wavy area. I'm not going to be able to fix that, but I've got to say it is 1,000 times better than it was before. So I think that means this episode is finally a wrap. Boy, that took much longer than expected to get that whole rear end painted and whatnot. And just remember, this is kind of a backyard mechanic restoration. This is definitely not Concours style. I wasn't going for a perfect finish or whatever, because this is my daily driver and it's already rusted in a couple spots. So this car doesn't deserve a full restoration, not with the mileage, not with the condition it's in. With that in mind, thank you for watching. If you did like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. It certainly helps us. Make sure to check out our Patreon page, our speedacademy.shop page for merch. And as always, thank you for watching.